Oh man, what a fucking
Eddie and I have had a tough day, so welcome to episode 3, I guess, of Titty Farty Dicks.
yeah.
Just like that's the intro.
That's the intro.
Sad. Oh,
Um yeah, so I don't know. There's a lot of things going on in the world, you know? It's a fucked up world.
yeah, yeah.
It's a fucked up world. It's fucked up people in a fucked up world.
Fucked up
Um
people in a fucked up
I don't know if
world.
we really got into this one time, but I have a recording studio. I'm an audio professional. I work with rappers and vocalists.
Bands too you've worked with.
Not really. Just some shitty band called Grizzly Timbers. Here's their album cover. Uh,
That was my band.
and I think they gathered that when they saw
I don't know. I
your
think I look a
ass.
lot younger and better looking in the
Oh
photo,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
they'll be like, "Oh, who's that haggard ass, crackhead looking motherfucker on the mic?" And then who's that hot, handsome, tall drink of water on that album cover? Are they brothers? And then the other one had a worse life.
It's a really good album cover. It's actually a really good band. We'll have to play one of the music videos one time.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe we can just play a snippet or something.
Literally play like a second of it, like like super
Just
quick.
play them at like 10 or like 20 times the speed, but like all of them. I think there was like 4.
I think we did 4,
Yeah,
maybe, or
just play,
5.
play them all at once.
5 if you include the one we did at that party, the house party. I think.
Right.
Gravy Dude.
Yeah, 5. Okay,
Well,
yeah,
here
it was
comes
a good
Davey stumbling through
honestly,
the door.
you guys had good music, and
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I don't know. Mostly, I work with rappers. Rappers are
His bread and butter.
bread and butter. They're my favorite. They're my favorite kind of people.
I said butter because you were saying rappers, and I figured I'd do
Oh
that.
yeah, because A's and stuff. I don't know if that's a rapper thing.
It's definitely the culture, I think.
Anyway, I had a vocalist hit me up and tell me that she was concerned with one of the rappers that I work with, and she had seen some video of me shooting a music video for him. I was actually in that music video as well, so um, I saw that she was like upset about me in this video, and I was like, oh, so what's the deal? Like, he's just this guy. She's like, oh well, I'm sorry, I'm not going to mention your name, but I'm going to talk about the details. Anyway, she said that she hooked up with him, and she said, like, I just think he's a piece of shit, and I was like, yeah, he's a womanizing piece of shit. Anyway,
As
so
most men are.
yeah, so anyway, she just was like, I don't like him, and I was like, yeah, that's a dick move to, like, he obviously like hit her up and then fucked and chucked her, and that's fucking awful in itself. Anyway, so then
So is that phrase? Can we just say had sex and then never talked again?
yeah.
Well, stick to fucked and chucked.
Fucked and chucked.
Sounds like a really shitty restaurant.
It's just a thing, and it's a thing that shitty guys do. I'm sure I've done it before because I'm not
I
I'm
think we've all
not a
done
perfect
that.
guy.
I've been
either.
fucked and chucked by chicks before.
Totally, yeah.
Ghosted.
So
Doesn't feel
anyway, after a couple days went by, and then she hits me up and she's like, "It's so interesting that we had that conversation because a whole bunch of women have just come forward to me." So a little bit of context: she was actually, at an event, and the artist that I'm talking about, he performed at an event, and at that event, and then I guess women in the audience were like, "How could you have him perform at the event? He's awful." And then they told her that they had like bad experiences with him, like sexual assault type scenarios. And I'm not sure if any of these have been reported or anything, but she heard this and then she just felt the need to tell
If
me.
enough people come forward.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then so like, I'm like, fuck, that sucks. Like, I just shot a video with this guy, and she's like, well, you can't do the video. I'm like, look, like, the video shot. I shot the video. It's coming out. Like, she's just like, look, the stuff that I've heard is bad. Like, it's bad. You don't want to have your name attached to that. And I was trying to be reasonable, because in my mind, I'm just like, okay, I still feel like I have to do the thing. Cause like, I can't just jump at like, oh, somebody says that you did this, so fuck you.
And you've also worked with like people who've been convicted of a crime, and
yeah. So I work with people, and so I was trying to explain to her. I was like, this is my job. I have to just do my job. And she ended up being like, okay, I understand your position, but I can't work with you anymore, which is devastating because she is one of the most amazing singers that I have ever heard. And
is
like,
she single?
oh fuck. Yeah, she might be single. Maybe I'll set you guys up.
How old is she?
I'm not sure. Anyway, we'll get to that. Who she is and whether she's single or not is not important. What is important is what she told me, and then what I then discovered.
Just hold on.
Because she.
Of course, it would be me that would ask that question in the middle of a story like
yeah,
this.
so he's a piece of shit too. So.
I'm not a piece of shit. I'm lonely.
Anyway, so this artist of mine, I had heard all of this stuff about the allegations, and then she let me know that there's actually like he was arrested and there's a one in the process of the court and stuff, and I was like, oh, okay, we're talking a little bit more serious now.
And then more stories on top.
More
of that.
stories and more stories, yeah. So she had like a ballpark figure of how many she thought that had happened. It was pretty rough, and at some point I was just like, okay, look, like I'm on board. I'm gonna like process all this and figure out what I'm gonna do. So, at some point I went and I messaged some of the girls that were in the music video that we had just shot. And I said, hey girls, I just want to show you some stuff, like some screenshots. And I want you to read them over. And maybe if like you guys can start a group conversation together and just discuss whether you want to be still involved in this music video, if there's allegations like this out. Because I had screenshots, I had all kinds of different.
Fucking doing some journalistic.
Yeah,
work.
I had some material to,
like you work
to
for
be
the
like,
LA Times.
Look at this, make a decision.
Yeah.
But to my like disgust, they told me that this had happened to them the night of the video shoot.
Like the night, like not when you were filming.
Not
like,
while I was there filming. When I left, like the last scene was at an Airbnb.
And they kept partying or whatever.
And they kept partying, and then he had forced himself on a girl there, and she had to like get away from him and get out of there. And then one of the other girls got kicked out of the party for not fucking his friend. And then another girl had passed out drunk there, and like, so I'm talking to all these girls all separate, and they're not talking to each other. They saw each other at this video, and then that's it. And then this other girl, she passed out at the party, and then in the morning he's trying to get her to fuck, and she's telling him to fuck off. Luckily, so that's 3. There's a 4th one that he like pursued, and she said she was taken, and he he didn't pursue that. But like, this is like all 4 of these girls.
Mm-hmm.
Were
one a night's too much. Never mind 3.
Yeah, so he had tried to like
push himself
start that. And not to mention, like, another friend of mine hit me up and said it happened to his partner, like him and him, like her and him had talked, and then he had advanced on her, and she didn't.
So the evidence to you is overwhelming.
Yeah, well, just the fact that he's like.
Persistent
on these, and then there was the one girl who was saying no, and he kept on her, and then he was
every time I hear stories like this, it just makes me feel so
shitty. And he was like continuing, and she had to like get out of there and then jet. So I mean, and I'm like, holy fuck. So the more I dig into this is the heart, like the fucking the worse it's getting.
Yeah.
So I've been dealing with this. I've been talking to women. I've been talking to men that know of situations. I've been talking to friends of his or artists that are collaborating with him. And I'm like, look, like, I'm not telling anybody what to think, but I've got information, and I'm putting it out in front of them, and I'm saying, what do you think of this? Like this was sent to me, and I just think you should know. And then they're like, oh my God. Like, because there's no other way to go about it. Like, everybody's just like, nah, like, that can't happen. And so I'm just like, okay, well, I need to fucking say something to him. So I give him I wasn't going to call him because I wanted to have, if he's going to respond to me, I want to have it in writing, right? So I didn't call him. I sent him a fucking long text message about how I can't work with him anymore, and that there's these allegations, and that I've been talking to people and the girls that were in the video, and they all say that things happen.
You don't want to associate your business.
I don't want to associate with him
and his behavior.
And then I'm going on to say, like, man, you got to take a hard look at yourself, and you have to like see what you're doing, because this is awful behavior. This is disgusting. I said
atrocious.
And I was saying that fans, because like these are people that admire you. This is what I was saying. You can't be taking out your sexual frustration on people who admire you, and people that are here because they admire you and they look up to you and they're like, oh yeah, I get to be in his video. Like, this is so cool. Some young girl that's just like, I get to be in a cool rapper's video, and I'm like, poor girls, first off, and then like, what the fuck, dude? And so I'm continuing on, and I said, man, like, fans deserve better from entertainers.
I don't even think.
And women
deserve better
from men in general.
I think humans deserve better from humans, man. Like,
and this is just not okay. So I left him with that. So I won't be doing this video. I'll just
like from what I gathered from that whole story that you just told was like, like at the bottom line of it, you can't associate your brand or your business with behavior like that, no matter who it is.
Well, it was really eye-opening to me, because it made me feel like my work was being used as a tool to lure women into this space. So if he's going to be using me like that, like, I'm not going to have that. If he's going to be using women like that, I'm not going to have that.
I don't think that's where his head is at, but you feel that way though, because you feel associated, because you're like, well, fuck, I didn't know that this guy was doing this or acting like this. So behind closed doors. And then when you find out, you're like, well, fuck, man, it might, like, but you're not a culprit in that in any way, and you acted right.
No, I'm just saying he was like, he's using that. It's not like I'm just like, oh yeah, I heard you did this to some people. Like, he's doing something to me, so I'm doing something back. I'm not going, oh, I heard this happen to somebody else. Something is happening to me, so I am acting. And I did my.
Well, your business is technically going to be affected by his behavior.
Yeah.
If you kept working with him, so you did the right thing, but I don't think you did it for your business. I think that was in mind, but I think you just did it because it's unjust to treat, like you said, women like that.
Yeah. And I mean, and you just hear about this too often. And just the thought of being involved in creating these situations made me sick to my stomach.
Yeah.
So I have had a stressful time acquiring information, processing information, reiterating information, and I'm just fucking toast from dealing with this shit. I feel angry. I feel sad. I feel
disappointed.
I feel a little bit good about the actions that were taken, but man, it's just sickening. And then it just makes me think that it happens a lot more than we think.
Yeah, well, look at the Me Too thing when that all came out, and Alyssa Milano made that tweet, and then it was like, when the world erupted.
People are so accustomed to this just being normal that the girls in this situation were all in a group conversation that we were all a part of, that people were sharing photos, and I wouldn't have thought anything of it. They were sharing photos of the night, being like, oh, everybody looked so good. And then all the guys are like, oh yeah, you look sexy in that one. And I'm like,
don't you ever read comments?
This is fucking disgusting.
Haven't you ever just...
Looking back on it now, at the time I was just like, yeah, whatever, fucking dudes. And then
now that you know the truth,
and now I know what was going on. I'm like, man, this is just awful. And then they were all conversing in this group convo, and no one was talking about what happened.
I think it's because, like, I've heard this before. I've heard this a million times on a million different podcasts, and I'm all over since all that stuff that Me Too's happened. Is like, I think that's why you see, like, 10 years later, a bunch of women finally come forward because they're scared to.
And then there's these people who are, like, probably women too, who are in that kind of like, oh, why didn't you say anything? But like, mostly it'll be like men in the protective zone that are like, Like oh, you're just gonna come after him now. It's like, look, it's not easy. It's not common. It's not accepted when they do, because like people always like kind of like shy away from the conversation, or oh, what did you do? What were you doing? Yeah, what were you doing?
Were
like,
you high
coming
on
onto
coke
him?
and get,
So what?
Were you twerking in his
So
face
what?
10 minutes before?
Yeah,
It's
but
like,
so what?
Yeah.
So what if you were? That's not saying fucking put your dick in me when I'm saying no, don't put your fucking dick in me.
Yeah. Like, it's like when you can sense, and I've sensed it before, you know what I mean? Like, someone, like, I think I told you this story once, like well over a decade ago, I was at a bar downtown, and this Irish girl, like, she was kissing me outside the bar, and she was like, get in the cab, and then I got in the cab, and then we went to her house, and she was kissing me the whole time. And then when we got there, she's like, nothing's gonna happen. And I was like, okay, do you want me to sleep on the couch? And she's like, no, you can sleep in the bed, I just don't want to do anything. And I was like, all right. And then I never tried anything, because why
And
the
you're
fuck,
one in a million. Like, that has got to be like,
but why the fuck would you want to try after they said no?
Right?
Oh my god!
And that's what I think. Too,
I have the
is
best
like,
story for you.
Like how on like the least attractive thing when you're engaged in, like, let's say you're just kissing someone and you can tell that they don't want to kiss you. Like, that is the most that's not a turn on. Why would you then be like, no, I'm going to kiss you harder?
Well, some people's minds, like, you know what I mean? Like, our minds work like that, but some people might be turned on by that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's some sort of sadistic thing.
She's trying to lure me into trying harder.
Well, also at the same time, I've heard stories before from girlfriends that I've had or anything like that, where they've said, like I had a really good friend of mine, and I'm obviously not going to say her name, but she went home with a dude who was a total fucking douchebag, and we were hanging out, and there was a bunch of us, but he was just like one of those chachi motherfuckers with, like, just a fucking loser, and he was annoying, and he talked loud over everyone. And anyway, they ended up going home together, and she said that she constantly said no for a half an hour, and then she finally just said yes so it could stop.
Oh.
And I was like, are you okay? And she was like, I just wanted it to stop. I guess I'm fine with it. And it's just like that kind of thing being accepted in her mind as just being like, well, I guess I just got to fuck him to get rid of him. Like, that shit's not cool. That's the kind of shit that does come back later, because you finally find out, and girls that don't realize that kind of behavior is wrong, they finally realize when a bunch of women raise up and be like, that's not right. And then 10 years later, that girl that happened to is like, actually, that wasn't right. Yeah. And then she'll go online and call them out or something like that. And then all of a sudden pours in of all these other girls that have gone through the same thing. Because it'd be traumatizing. Like, because a man can overpower a woman most of the time. Like, most men aren't in fear of getting raped by a girl. But, like, could you imagine if you were, and you were, like, you, like, just couldn't, like, you know what I mean? Like, you're like, what if I get up and leave? Like, maybe I'll just fuck him so he doesn't rape me or something like that. Kind of, like, I can't even imagine.
And like, it's shit like that just makes my stomach sink. Like, it just makes my heart sink and my stomach churn. And it's just like, I've been dealing with this, and it's been so heavy. I wasn't even going to do this today. This podcast wasn't even going to happen. I get here, I was like fucking just shook from my day, and I just wasn't going to do it. And I don't know what you said, but you said something, and I was just like, fuck it, let's just go get all the stuff, let's sit down, and I'm just going to I'm just going to say it. So I'm glad we did. I'm here now doing it, and everything's going to be okay.
Yeah. For a podcast called Titty Farty Dicks, that was a pretty heavy conversation.
Yeah, that's like, it's like I don't know. So
I guess you got to get it off your chest.